let's go ahead and walk through this here real quick. I think something that's important to note is that you are allowed to do whatever it is you need to do in order to make this easy for you. And so if you've noticed, I pulled out some of this data that was in your, that was in the scenario, so I didn't have to keep referring back to it. And if you put that in a little table, you can just refer to the cells. All right, so that really made life a lot easier. So what we're going to do here, I think everyone can understand that this is going to be just length times width. All right, and then we know that we want this number of seed for our corn. So this equals divided by our pure live seed, and that's how many plants that we need per acre. I think that I should probably put in here, let me add, that this is, what was this, 80,000, I'm sorry, 40, this is 80,000 bags, 80,000 seed a bag. I want to say this is 140,000, and I think this is 80,000. Okay, and so then our actual, how many bags we need, this is equals the number of seed we need per acre divided by the number of seed in a bag, 80,000. Okay, and then if you remember from Manny showed us that we can do this equals round up. Well, we should probably do it here. F sub x, this should be round up. Bang. That is this, and number of digits is 0. Bang. What's going on here? There we go. Try that. Bang. Okay. And then now we need to figure out the cost per field. And so, or at least per acre. And I tell everyone, if you can get it to an acre, you can get it to a field, because we're really going to base this on how much we made per acre. And I've been thinking about this a little bit over, like, just over the past couple of days, that, like, that's not going to be perfectly accurate, but we have to understand that there's going to be some leeway, and that your cost may vary here and there, and you might spend a little bit more because you have extra product left over. Hopefully you don't buy too much product. Let's say you buy too much pesticide or you buy too much fertilizer. We know that we're going to have some seed costs that we didn't actually get to plant. So if you can get it by per acre, you can at least understand that, hey, I did this well on this piece of land. How can I improve? That other cost is just like the taxes and just all the other stuff that is just, you just can't account for that. So we want to do it a per acre. So we know that we need a half of a bag, or how many bags we're actually going to plant, right? And then times the cost of a bag. Bang. So it's $167 per acre, or $168 per acre, which is about half, right? Half a bag times half of the cost. All right, and so then, now that we know this, we can do this by field. So we know that it costs this much per acre, and we multiply that times, and hold on, I did this incorrect. There, divided by 43560. There we go. Now we have 5.42 acres. So we'll do this, the cost per acre times the number of acres. Boom. And we can just drag this down for our corn. Oh. Got it. Okay. Here we go. This needs to be, this is important. This needs to be F4 because we want absolute. And that means that it is only going to pull these values from here and here. Okay? If you're on a Mac, you need to actually insert your dollar signs. You have to insert the dollar signs here and here. All right, where else are we going to get this? This is E4 times L4. I need to do this as a fixed or an absolute value, so it only pulls from this 80,000, because if not, it will calculate down this row, and that's why we came up with all of those errors. Okay, times that. This is F4 times O4. That O4 needs to be an absolute reference. Put the dollar signs in there. Nope. Whoa, what happened there? Okay, here we go. Times O4 and enter. Now this is H4 times D4. Okay, and those values won't change. All right, cool. Now we should be able to drag this down. Drag that down to 10. Boom. All right, and so because we knew that we needed about, a half of a bag per field, then we know that the cost is going to be about 106, or a half a bag per acre. We know that the cost per acre is going to be about $168. And then the cost per field changes because the field sizes are different, but the planting population is not. And so I kind of made this so that way you could understand that there are going to be some things that are fixed and constant, and there are going to be some things that change based on the field size. All right, so now let's do this for soybean. So again, this is equals, I guess this can stay the same because we'll drag this down. I'm just going to drag one right here. Boom. Okay, and now our population is equal to 157. And this needs to be F4. Absolute times 0.96. Oh, where'd you go? Equals, boom, F4 times this, F4. And again, remember, if you're on a Mac, you need to put those dollar signs in there. I know there might be a few students who do the Mac. All right, and then it seems that everything else is going to auto-populate. Wait. So we just come in here and we change this from L4 to L5. Because we know that our bag has 140 seed in it, 140,000 seed in it. Okay, and then our cost, we come in here and fix this. So this is F14. We need to change right here. So we're going to change this from O4 to O5. And then this should be the number of, the cost per acre times the number of acres. All right, we'll drag this down. 220. Cost per acre stays the same, but the number of acres changes. Now let's do this for the last one for cotton. We're going to drag this down one time. And we will make this equals this F4 divided by this F4 absolutes, M6 divided by N6, M6 divided by N6, rate over analysis. Okay, and then this is, you can click on this and see, we need to change this to L6. Everything else changes. This is now F24 times O6. And I think all that should be fine. right? So now do you see the value of having this table over here? Because I can just reference all of that instead of having to type that in. And then when I'm done, I can just drag those down. Let me add a couple of rows here. And our total cost for per acre. Oh, this is going to be, now this is one of these, because we know this is just per acre. It's not all of them. We'll do that when we do the field. And we know that this is and cotton. And let's sum all of our acres. Auto sum. Let's see. Now let's auto sum all of this. Why is this not adding up right? I wonder. Let's just go with this sum. We know that this is the cost for every field, and we'll just go with that sum. I don't want to get into doing averages and some different formulas to make sure that these two numbers match. I believe this is the correct answer. Once you calculate per acre and you know how many acres are in your field, that's going to tell you what that cost is per field, and then you sum all of that. Okay? So let's get down here for actual bags. We know that this is going to equal, we're going to do an auto sum, and that is going to be all of our corn. So we'll need 6 whole bags. For our soybean, we're going to do auto sum. And we'll need 11 whole bags. And then for our cotton, and so we'll need to order 5 bags. The seed cost per acre, we know that it's this. We know that it is this. Bang. Seed cost per field. I think we took this out. If I'm not mistaken, we took that out. I'm just going to put this over here. We're just going to go ahead and delete this column. Delete. Total seed cost is equals, because we know that we're going to have to buy all of these bags. This equals 6 times, bang. And now we can just drag, because we've referenced the right cells. So we can just drag this down now, because this equals the number of bags times the cost. The number of bags times the cost. Okay? So our total add something in here. How many bags? It's how many acres? Ah. All right. Let's add in insert. Let's add in bags needed. This is going to be per field. No. Right, because this equals the number of bags times the number of acres. And let's just do some quick math here. Let's do this equals, let's just verify. Hopefully this works out, right? Times this. 909.42. Because this is the 2.78 bags that we need per field times the cost of each bag. So it would seem that, well, go down. Now the total of bags that we need, this is sum F, this will be G4 to G13. 20, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. And then this equals G14 there we go. And then this is G24 whole bags. This is now 28. This is now 62. This is now 27. And all of this added up should be that's pretty close, 23,000 and 22,000. Right, because we actually bought a little bit of extra seed for each one of those bags. Like, there's going to be a little bit of extra, right? So the actual, like, per field, the actual money in actual seed that you planted is 22,500. The actual cost for all the seed that you bought is 23,200. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to find out what the actual value is. And then you also have to figure out that, like, it's going to cost you a little bit extra for any of the other stuff. And this doesn't account for shipping or any of the other things. Okay, so there was that. This is the seed.